Episode 37. He is the mystery donor. Although the students who had donated more than $100 were invited to go on stage to speak, none of them were very enthusiastic. After all, most of them had donated the money to help the poor mountain village children and not simply to boost their reputations. After the host finished speaking, a few people took the initiative to go up onto the stage and say a few words. None of them wanted to accept credit for their donations, and as agreed, all of them praised the student who had donated $130,000. Steve was one of those who walked up to the podium. He said,
"Look, I want to criticize someone for giving a single dollar and then being proud of it, claiming to have donated money as if he had made a great contribution to the children of the mountain village. We should all learn from that student who donated more than $100,000. That person is not only rich, but also of very high moral standards. I only donated $350 to the mountain village children. I'm nothing compared to him, and if possible, I want to express my admiration to him in person."
Because Steve thought that the student who had donated $130,000 must be much richer than him and from an influential family, he intentionally tried to flatter him from the podium so that when he saw him later on, he would be able to befriend him. Jeff felt his stomach churn as he saw Steve's fawning expression on the podium. Luckily, he hadn't mentioned his name and didn't go up on stage, otherwise he would be making a quick exit right now. When he finished speaking, Steve walked off the stage. The others were all moved by his words, and one by one, they condemned the person who had donated a single dollar and praised the one who had donated $130,000. One person said,
"The fool who donated $1 still had the cheek to brag about it. How embarrassing."
"Who can tell me who this person is? I'll hit him right now."
Another called out. One female student said,
"I want to meet that student who donated $130,000. I bet he's awesome."
Hearing the discussions around them, Steve laughed proudly.
"Jeff, did you hear that?"
He said.
"Everyone's scolding you, you scum."
When no one came up to speak at Steve's invitation, the host started to move on to the next segment.
"All right, we'll begin taking pictures of everyone together on stage, due to the restrictions of the venue. We can only invite the 30 students who contributed the most to come up, to have their photos taken. Please forgive us, those students that can't come up on stage. I'll announce the names next,"
he said, and went on over to call them.
Steve Phillips, $350. Jonathan Gray, donated $500. Rick Riggs, donated $500.
"Darling, I've missed you."
Andrea said to Steve, excitedly holding onto his arm and shaking it vigorously.
"I also want to go up on stage and take a picture, my love. Can I go with you?"
Andrea wanted to get into the group photo, show it to her class committee, and gain credit for herself. That way, she would have a huge advantage in the scholarship evaluation at the end of the term. This group photo would be useful in many ways.
"Why not? I'll just tell them. Let's go,"
Steve replied. Then he walked on stage with Andrea's hand in his own.
"Sorry, our space is limited. We're not allowed to bring others up for the photos. Please forgive us,"
said Emma, the girl who was responsible for maintaining order, as she stopped Andrea.
"Please, let's make a deal between us. No one will know if you don't tell them."
Andrea whispered to the girl, but she was still tactfully rejected.
"Get out of the way. Who do you think you are? How dare you stop me?"
Steve arrogantly pushed Emma aside and pulled Andrea over.
"It's a miracle that someone like him would even donate money to a mountain village,"
Emma muttered angrily as she rubbed her arm. At that moment, when the host announced the last 3 people, the atmosphere had reached its peak.
Bruce Wade, please come up to the podium. Bruce donated $1,500.
The girls in the audience were buzzing, watching Bruce walk onto the stage. They all cheered, their eyes filled with passion.
Harry Ford, please come up. Harry donated $1,500.
Harry walked onto the stage.
"I love you, gorgeous. You're the best!"
One of the young women shouted out.
"A rich man doing something to help others. That doesn't happen too often."
To attract the attention of the rich and eligible young men, the girls in the auditorium shrieked, and the atmosphere was like a pop concert. Of course, everyone was also excited about finding out who the super rich man was who had contributed over $100,000.
Next, let's invite the student in the first place to step up. His donation is 130,000.
It was as if the hall had exploded. Some people covered their mouths while others widened their eyes. Some even stood up from their seats to search for their classmates in the hall. 130,000. Most parents can't even make that much money in a year. When Andrea heard that someone had donated $130,000, her heart was in turmoil. She was thinking,
If only I can get to know this super rich guy and get him interested in me, then I'll dump Steve without a second thought.
everyone was searching for the rich donator, but no one stood up. The crowd looked excitedly at the host, asking him to announce that generous donor's name.
That student didn't leave his name when he donated the $130,000.
The host explained to everyone. One girl said,
No name. That's proof that these rich young people only wanted to help the children of the mountain village, that they weren't doing it just to boost their reputations. Their morals were high.
I want to meet this rich guy. He's my dream man.
thought Andrea.
Buddy, if you're here, please get up on stage and have your picture taken.
The host said as he scanned the audience. However, no one stood up. Everyone assumed that the rich donor wasn't there. They were all disappointed. Jeff, who was sitting in the last row, covered his face with his hands and heaved a sigh of relief. However, he also felt a little guilty, as if he had tricked everyone. The host began to arrange for the people on the stage to stand and have their photos taken together. It was cramped, with everyone standing in a row facing the photographer who was below the stage. Steve had given the least money, so he and Andrea could only stand in the very edge. Andrea stood very close to the right side of the stage. They moved a little bit to the right. She thought she might be pushed off. Finally, everyone stood up. Andrea tidied her hair, put her arm around Steve and smiled proudly. She sneered deliberately at Lelaine, who was sitting at the foot of the stage, and said to herself,
Lelaine, my man can take me on stage to have my photo taken. You can only watch me from the audience. Yet you're so delusional enough to think that you can find a richer man than mine, aren't you? You've got no chance. I'll always look down on you.
At that moment, Andrea felt like a queen looking down at the lonely Lelaine. By this time, Jeff wanted to leave. After all, the event was coming to an end. He held Lelaine's hand and started to move toward the door.
Wait.
Jeff had just taken 2 steps when an excited female called out to him in the hall. He slowly looked toward the direction of the voice, and his heart couldn't help skip a beat as he thought.
Oh, no.
The person calling him was the girl with the ponytail, Laura, who had been there the day when he had donated the money. When she saw Jeff, her hesitation quickly turned into excitement. She ran toward him, grabbed his arm and said loudly to all the students,
Everyone, he's the one that donated 130,000.
All eyes were focused on Jeff.
Was this guy who was dressed in street vendor clothes rich or something?
They still couldn't believe it. Someone had started to question the girl on the spot.
I know it for certain. I was the one who met him that day, and my companion even took a photo at the time. If you don't believe me, look for yourselves.
She said as she brought out the photo her companion had given her and showed it to everyone. There was a lot of shouting.
It's him.
One guy shouted. Another agreed.
That's right. He's the one.
Jeff, you're too modest.
A girl said to him coyly. Everyone now believed that he was the student who had donated 130,000. When the host found out that Jeff was the one, he quickly gathered everyone to escort him to the stage.
We finally found out your true identity. Thank you so much for giving $130,000 to the children in the impoverished mountain village. Can you tell us your name?
The host put the microphone near Jeff's mouth. Now he couldn't even hide it if he wanted to, so he stopped pretending.
My name is Jeff Florento.
He said softly.
Oh, so it's Jeff Florento. This name sounds like it belongs to a wealthy and distinguished family. He's a good and noble young man. Let's express our respect for him, everyone.
The host clapped his hands, and the audience burst into applause.
Jeff! Jeff!
His name was shouted out rhythmically by the audience. Only after 30 seconds did Jeff gradually start to relax.
All right, let's take a picture now. Jeff, you are the highest donor, so you stand in the middle.
Emma said it.
Oh, okay.
Jeff saw Lelaine staring at him in disbelief. With her eyes wide open, he asked the host beside him.
May I bring up a friend with me?
Of course you can.
The host answered without thinking. Jeff thanked him and walked onto the stage, holding Lelane's hands.
Everyone moved to the side.
Emma requested. The other students started to move out of the way for Jeff and Lelaine. Andrea, who was standing at the edge, had almost lost her place.
Miss, why don't you come down now? I can't let you stay.
Emma said to her.
No, I need to be in the pictures.
Andrea replied arrogantly. When they heard that Jeff was the super rich student who had donated $130,000, Andrea's and Steve's jaws had dropped. No matter what, they couldn't accept that fact. Andrea was outraged, as she thought to herself.
When it was me that was going to be in the photo, you guys didn't say anything at all and even criticized me behind my back. Now it's Lelaine's turn. Look at your stupid faces. You're idolizing Jeff now. Now you're telling me to get off stage, sit down and watch Lelaine have her photo taken? What's this? I, Andrea, have always been the one looking down on Lelaine. Even if I can't beat her this time, I'm not getting off the stage for her to take my place.
Seeing Andrea's angry expression, Emma frowned helplessly. She moved a chair over and placed it next to the stage and said,
If you want to be in the picture, you can stand on this chair. Otherwise, you'll have to leave.
Seeing that there was nothing else she could do, Andrea agreed and stood on the chair below the stage. She comforted herself that at least she wasn't worse than Lelaine. But she didn't know that she had already become a target of public ridicule among the audience.
That girl's ridiculous,
laughed one student. His friend agreed.
She's half a body lower than the other as she looks short. What a dope.
She's so desperate to be in the photo. Even standing below this stage, her stubbornness is crazy. I'm telling you,
said another student.